And every opportunity I get, I expose young people to house music. House music is the music that soothes the soul.
Today is December 29th, 2021. Who are we speaking with?
Victorian.
Who is Carolyn Victorian, for people who don't know?
Carolyn Victorian is an artist, a house music artist. She's a house music dancer. She's a mom. She's a grandmother. She's a poet, a writer, and just a really, really good person.
I like that. Will Milton, how did you meet him?
Wow. Will and I were introduced to one another, I think actually on Instant Messenger. Yeah, we had
Wow.
seen each other many years ago. Well, yeah, we had seen each other many years ago, but were not formally introduced. And I think this was around the end of 2016. Matter of fact, it was warm outside. I was coming out of an emotional scenario. I was doing some spring cleaning of the spirit, the soul. I was listening to a Will Milton mix, and the music was just pouring into me. Spiritually, it was just pouring into me. And that is a huge part of what house music is to me, is the music that soothes my soul. And the music was pouring into me, and I heard this bleep on my phone. And I went over and I looked at the phone and I said, this cannot be happening. It was Will Milton. It was actually Will Milton in a messenger. And he said, hi, Carolyn, I'm Will Milton. And he introduced himself, and I said, you are not going to believe this. You are not going to believe that right now, at this very moment, I'm actually listening to one of your mixes. And I just talked about, how it was pouring into me. And I don't remember the whole discussion, but basically we decided to talk and to meet and to do some work together. And that was the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Wow. Wow. I want to go back to something that you just said. You said house music fills your soul. Unpack that for people.
Okay. Actually, I said house music soothes
Soothes
my
our
soul.
soul. Sorry. Soothes your
Yes.
soul. Yes.
That's okay. There are many different ways of healing for people. Music is healing for me. When my father died, I had to go and dance. I had to get in the middle of the dance floor and soothe my soul. And the music just permeates through me and allows me to escape to this level of consciousness where I think it's just me and God. It's just me and the power that moves me. And that's what music does for me. It could be a sorrow, it could even be a joy. It's just this place that music takes me that I don't get from anything else.
How did you discover house music?
House music discovered me. That's funny. Let's see. So I was a big fan of the Zanzibar. I was born in Los Angeles, California, but I was raised in New Jersey. So we moved from LA to the Bronx, from the Bronx to New Jersey. And I lived in New Jersey until I got married and moved to Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii.
Wow. What was that like?
It was amazing. I was a military wife early in my life, and it was amazing. It was just amazing. So left Hawaii, went back to California, and then made my way back to the East Coast.
What part of California?
Los Angeles.
Again. What kind of music were you around in the house? What did your parents listen to?
Oh, wow. My parents were born in 1919 and 1924. So they listened to a lot of bebop, jazz. My father loved ragtime jazz, which I found to be quite annoying.
Mhm.
But my mom loved Billy Eckstine, Carmen McRae, Sarah Vaughan, Billie Holiday, things of that nature. But my mom also loved Marvin Gaye and Billy Paul, and she was well-rounded with music. So music was always around.
As a child, did you know you wanted to be a singer?
No, no, I had a sibling that was 14 years older than me. So in the hippie era, it was her teenage years. And they used to carry these small transistor radios. Like we would carry Walkman. They carried these little small radios. And she would always have me sing for her and her friends. And she would always say, baby girl, come here, sing this for me, sing that for me. And she liked the way I sang. And that's how I started singing.
Wow.
Hmm.
Nightclub. Do you remember your first nightclub that you went to?
Well, um, I'm not going to call it a nightclub because I was a teenager.
You were
It was
underage.
actually, no one, it was an underage place. It was called the Volcano Room.
Okay.
Wow. Oh my gosh. The Volcano Room was actually on the top of the Ormont Theater where I grew up. And they would give parties for the high schools. And that's when I first learned how to hustle. And I was an awesome hustle partner. And that was the beginning of everything for me with dance. Hmm.
So talk to us about the transition from being a fan of music to being a singer, songwriter, performer, artist.
Okay. So music has been like the driving force in my life, my whole life. I could find a song for everything. I know so many different types of music. I just kind of gravitated towards it growing up. And I sing jingles, I sing commercials, it doesn't matter. I can find a melody in anything. And so when I was at 14, I was 14 years old when I started with my first band as a lead singer. And from that point, we were doing R&B. And I did that until I signed with Metropolis Records in 2003 or four and cut my first single.
Mm,
I Said It and I Meant It, which was distributed by Atlantic Records.
mm. What was that like to be signed to a major?
Lonely.
Why is
It
that?
was lonely. Well, because I was with a band. The band was 8 people.
Mhm.
And when I started with Metropolis, I had to leave my band. They weren't trying to sign the band, they were trying to sign the artist. And my band, my loyalty was to them. And I said, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. We can't go together. We always said we would, that whole loyalty. And they said, no, you go, and you bring us later.
Mm,
Well, that was the era of disco. This is where bands were not a necessity anymore. Single artists were singing with tracks by then. So it never made manifest that the band got together again.
mm.
Hmm.
Did that hinder your relationship with the band?
Yeah, they got another artist, which
Hmm.
they should have,
Hmm.
and I moved to Maryland.
Mm.
So when I moved to Maryland, I was married a second time, and my sons were young.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter was in 8th grade, and my husband had this big job in Maryland, and I was an at-home mom. I gave
Mm-hmm.
music up. I just stopped.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So my goal was that I wanted to cut a record. That
Mm-hmm.
was it. I didn't say I wanted the record to do well. I just wanted to cut a record. That was my goal with music. And once I had done that, I felt like I had fulfilled that. So I continued to write poetry. Um, I continued to sing like to my kids, at home, but it wasn't important to me anymore. And then my cousin Todd Demery came down to DC with Tony Humphreys. I believe it was for Teddy Douglas's birthday party, if I am correct. And my cousin is so funny. He just kept saying, "This is my cousin. She sings. She sings. You got to hear her." And he just kept going on and on. And I was quite embarrassed because I had stopped. It was just not important to me anymore. And that's how I met Jason Papillon and Ian Carey
Mm-hmm.
from the Soul Providers, and Kim Petruski.
Mm-hmm.
And we communicated further, and I did my first house song with them, Try My Love.
Tell us about the process of recording a house music song. How does
Hmm.
that work?
Well, it could work a bunch of different ways. The way that I like it to work best is the way I work with Will. It's not always music prepared. Many times it is that we sit in a session and we discuss a topic and we write together. We have such an amazing chemistry when we get into a session. It's different than coming prepared with a song or coming prepared with his song than it is when we co-create. When we co-create, it's like a flower just bursts and magic happens. So we would lay down the melody
Mm-hmm.
and then start to build the choruses and then the bridge. It gets all put together. And then we have a song.
How long on average does it take to make a song?
It could take, writing a song, you can do in a matter of minutes to write a song. If you are fully ready to execute what you're trying to say, you can put a song together in no time at all. To perfect that song, it varies. It really varies. I don't know, sometimes we might go in and touch 4 or 5 different pieces, but maybe have only completed 2.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends.
I want to detour. We're going to come back to singing. I want to detour for a bit.
Okay.
New York is a house music mecca. Chicago is a house music mecca. Baltimore is the house music mecca. Tell us about the Baltimore house music scene from your experience, your lens.
Well, from my experience, many doors opened for me in house music here in Baltimore. OG Morris and Brian Pope, Poetry Records, was the second label I recorded for many, many, many songs. When I met OG, I wanted something different from house music than what I was getting when I worked with Jason and Ian. And I really got into OG sound.
What did
And I
you
went
want?
up to him,
What did you want different?
more soulful house,
Mm-hmm.
just a more soulful vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Not so commercial, not so, I don't know. If you listen to one of the tracks from each, you could hear the difference.
Yeah, it's very pumping versus very soulful, very different.
Yes, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to explore that. And working with OG, I got an opportunity to do exactly that. There were times when I would go in a session and we would have something on our minds that we were going to do. And then you hit this bump in the road and it's like a writer's block. And he would just say, you know what? Here, he put a sheet of paper down, a pen, and he'd leave the room. And I would just write. And that's how we wrote He's My DJ, just like that. And it really literally wrote itself. So when I first moved down here, my ex-husband and I at the time, we didn't know that there was house music in Baltimore. So we were still going home to the shelter once a month, at least, at minimum, once a month. He would go twice a month because we had children. I would go once a month. And I stumbled over house music. Well, the underground experience is what it was called on WEAA 88.9 FM on the radio. And when I found it, I was like, oh my God, there's house music here. My daughter and I were in the car and I realized that there was a weekly show that came on. And that's how I got introduced to house music, really, here in Maryland. And then came the parties. OG played at, I think, Club Orpheus. And then I got into some of the other DJs in town. And then into the DC Sanctuary and just kind of learned how to maneuver in the world of house here in Maryland.
One of my favorite tracks is, and I think this is probably the first time I met you, was Everything You Want.
Wow.
I think it was 2004, 2005. You performed in Miami outside.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I have photos of that somewhere in a hard drive, like in a storage unit somewhere. Tell us about that song. That song is magic. How did that song come together?
Yeah.
What does that song mean?
Wow. Whew. Interesting. You got me here. Okay.
I do my homework.
Okay. Everything You Want was created with OG and DJ Buzzard. That's where we recorded that song, but it was really, so many of my songs depict places in my life that I have traveled. And Everything You Want literally was an anthem for me to say, this relationship is no longer serving me. So everything I want ain't what I need. Everything in life ain't always what it seems. To grow, I must let go and find the love inside of me. So when it was created, there was a totally different melody than what we ended up with. But the point came across. It was a goodbye letter to my marriage.
Wow.
Yeah.
You broke some news here tonight.
I know. That's so crazy.
Wow.
Serious.
Yeah, that was heavy. That was heavy.
And it was so awesome to be able to purge that.
Did you write that before you ended your marriage, or was that song a catalyst for you to say it's time to chop it?
No, it was before. It was during the most volatile time of the marriage, you know, where things have literally already chopped apart, but you're still trying to hold it together. So, you know, one says, well, I don't want to be a statistic, so we keep holding on, but everybody's already left. And it was during that time where I would go out on the porch and sit and just write, and it wrote itself. I didn't realize it, but it had written itself. So it was once we had parted ways that I recorded it, but it was written during the end of the marriage.
Let's talk about balance. How did you find the balance of time and clarity of mind to balance your recording career with marriage and a family?
Okay, so it wasn't very difficult because music was always just a part of me. It was just something I always made room for. It was never a this or that. It was always, I have all of these things to do, but I have to have time for this. This is the thing that feeds and nurtures my soul. So I always made room for it. My daughter grew up in dank basements with me in rehearsals, because it was important. It was very important. So I never had to decide one over the other. I just made room for both. Once I made the commitment, that's just the way it was.
Mm, mm.
I mean, don't think I quit my day job, because I did not.
Well,
Music
let's get into that too.
Mhm.
So, how did you balance a day job and this creative career? And one, how did you balance it? And then two, how come you didn't just make the switch cold turkey?
Mm. So when I recorded my first song, like I said, my goal was just to record a song. I wasn't in it for a career. I just wanted to cut a song. Um, I felt like I knew I could sing if I could just cut a record, goal met, move on. And that's what I did. Um, when I got down to Baltimore and these different vessels opened for me, it was something I did as my extracurriculum activity. That was my hobby. That was my must have alongside, everybody has something. Some
Mhm.
people it's workout, some people it's basketball. Mine is music. And that's what I made room for.
Mm, mm. Controversial question.
Okay.
Is there any money in house music?
Controversial question. I'm sure there is. Um, I don't know that it is equitable, spread across as many artists as there are. I think that you get out what you put in. I think if you want to be 100% driven by music as your sole source of income, absolutely you could make a way. I feel that. But that's not what I do music for. I don't do music because I want to live by that music. That's my extra. That's my untouched thing. But I keep a day job. I keep a day job. So I think there are people that make a living doing music, the Joss Milans and Ultranates, and there are several different artists that actually do this for a living. I don't. I opted for a family over music, and I still believe I made the right choice.
Mm.
So I got the benefit of both. I was watching a YouTube video of me performing. No, it wasn't even YouTube. It was a session from Will and I. We did a live session and literally recorded a song in the session, right? One take, first kiss, one take, right? And I'm watching this and I said to myself, this is what my grandchildren's children will see when they think of me. I don't have any footage of my great grandmother, great great grandmother. There's nothing there to say this is who she was. Music has allowed me to set down things for my children, my children's children, to go back and say, this is who Carolyn Victorian was. She wasn't just a mom. She wasn't just a grandmother. She wasn't just a wife. She wasn't just she was all of these amazing things. And that brings me great joy.
Mm.
So the question, is there money in house music? I wish there were. I wish that, like many other genres of music, house music was as clear cut um, and beneficial across the board. I wish. Is it? No, it's not. So my belief is come into it with what your goal is. So if you are coming in here because you want to live by your music, you better come prepared to work hard, to live and breathe this thing. And I don't live and breathe music. I love music. Music is a passion for me, but it is something that I feel God has blessed me with. And I give as much to it as it gives to me. That's it.
It's probably also more freeing as an artist because you don't have to make music to pay your bills, right?
That's
So
very true.
therefore you can be free and you're not putting out trash or putting out
Mhm.
music just for the sake of putting out music. So in a way, it kind of frees you. Do you, with your day job and then with the music, does the day job know about your music persona, or do you keep that separate? I know some
I
people.
used I used to keep it separate. I used to keep it separate. But I don't know, some way, somebody always seems to stumble upon it and they go, you're, oh, you. And it commingles. And then I end up inviting people to different events or what have you. So they do cross paths. Mhm.
What do you
But I
want?
don't sing for my job. I work in healthcare. I do not sing for my job.
They got to come with a nice check for that.
They better.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Mm. So my first granddaughter is she's in her freshman year at Peabody School of Music, Johns Hopkins University. She is getting the classical training that I never had. So I'm self-taught. So I feel like as a family, it's building already. I want my lineage to be, she created everything she desired. I want my children and children's children to be able to see that when they look back and to be able to try their hand at anything they so desire. That's the biggest thing that I want. I want them to be happy. Do what makes you happy.
What is your intention when you sing?
My intention when I sing is to tap into my soul and engage the souls around me. Every artist isn't for every ear. That I get. My music, I feel, is tender. I feel is soft, sultry, sometimes happy and sometimes sad. But I want to engage the soul in song.
Which leads me to my next question. What is Soulful House?
Mm. What is Soulful House? Soulful House for me, and I have to say for me because everybody's depiction of it is different. It's not just 4 to the floor. It's just not just that hard banging. It is a vibe that kind of just takes on a life of its own. It's not like choppy. It's very melodic. It doesn't have to have words, but words are beautiful. But it is more soul driven than some of the really jacking kind of music. You know, house comes in so many different forms. I enjoy all of it. But soulful house is, it just, wow, it just permeates my soul. I don't know how else I can put this. It is such, it's the difference between gliding and stomping. It's the difference between twirling and jumping. It is, it's a flow. It's a flow for me. Soulful house.
Zanzibar, let's go back.
Mm.
Paint for us
Wow.
picture. So people know what Zanzibar is. That's fine. I'd like for you to paint for us a picture of a memorable night you had at Zanzibar. Describe the vibe, describe the feeling.
Okay. Zanzibar was the first place that I really got naked in a club.
Literally?
No, not literally.
Some people
Figuratively.
do. Some people do. So it's okay. No judgment. It's a safe
Okay.
space.
Yeah. Figuratively. Really just letting my hair down and becoming whatever the music allowed me to become. It was freeing. It was very dark. Um, the lights kind of popped here and there, but it was a baby powder, um, slide and glide, happy place. It was a happy place. It was a place where everybody got along. Everybody got along through the music. It didn't matter whether you were on beat, off beat, none of it mattered. It was just a place to just be free, to just be free. And I found my spot near a speaker, and I loved on that spot. And when I got tired, I went and laid down over by that spot and took a little nap. And at a certain hour, certain songs would play. And we were just a family. It just became a family. Yeah, Zanzibar was a special place.
Do you have a favorite song from that era that's your jam?
I do. I think it was the Clark sisters.
Mm,
Can I get a witness?
mm,
Yeah, that song. Oh my God, when that song would play, it had to be at least towards the end of the night when the
mm,
club thins out,
mm.
when all of the trendy people leave, you know, and the real heads get to just have the space to be free. When that song would pump, you could just get lost. Just get lost. It was a lot of nights we went to church in there.
Explain that for people. What does that
Mm.
mean? What does that mean for the layman?
It means, so back then, I'm going to say church folk still found it very hard to find gospel music in nightclubs. You know, it was considered a whole bunch of things, but the last thing it was considered was spiritual.
Mm.
But I've always lived by, you want to help a sinner, go where sinners are, you know?
Preach.
And so when gospel would play in the club, 10 City, you know, when those songs would come, it was almost like, it was almost like somebody preaching, and everybody's vessels are open to receive. Everybody's open to receive. Let me explain that. So I'm in the shelter one night, and BB Winans, thank you. is playing,
Mm.
right? I am over by, heck, I don't even know which one this was, but he came to perform for somebody's birthday, but I didn't know this then. So the song is playing and Timmy is giving it a run for its money. Okay. I mean, the song is just going in so many different directions. So I am dancing, but I am looking out and I'm literally seeing, excuse me, I'm literally seeing this spirit, this just thing just happened. And it's happening all across the floor. It's happening all across the floor. And when I got to where I couldn't see anymore, I was literally watching BB Wyman sing his song. No idea this man was in the club. So the way it was played is that he started off with the record.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, here is BB Wyman. Really?
Mm.
Really? Mm-hmm. But it was so spirit filled. The room was just, listen, I had a family member with me in the club that night that was in a very hard way. And I'm trying to enjoy myself and kind of take care of someone. When this song played, it cleared everything. It cleared, it even touched that soul. Yeah, it was special.
Mm.
So I do feel gospel definitely has a place in house music. It definitely has a place.
Mm. That's an incredible story.
Mm-hmm.
Dream collaborations. If you had unlimited connections and unlimited budget, who would you love to collaborate with?
Will Milton, definitely. Beyond that, I did some recording with Brandon D
Mm-hmm.
Out of Chicago. I think I would like to work with him again. We did a piece that was really just off the cuff. So we never actually took time to work together. But what we threw together was amazing. But outside of that, that's about it.
How do you know when a song is done?
Okay. How do I know when I've done all that there is to do for a song? Okay. Let's go there.
Let's go there.
How do I know when I've given all I've got to a song? Is when I stop hearing things to add to it. And it's normally when that last track of ad libs happen and they come out perfect. When that ad lib takes on a life of its own and it fits right in the pocket, that's it. Rarely after that have I ever been asked to do anything else with a song.
Mm. Where or how do you get musically inspired these days?
Life. Life. These are hard times we're living in. You know, this pandemic has changed the way we function. It's changed the way we nurture one another. Just being able to be out in the scene. You know, house music, we love on each other. I don't know. When I was going to Silver Shadows and the Down Under, the Underground, all these other places, it was like a dress up place that you go and you stay inside this shell, right? And you're in this place, but you're in this shell because you have to have this look. So I think it was more about the look than it was about the feel. House music is more about the feel, right? So I get into a house environment, and what has happened is we embrace, we nurture, we allow our energies to enmesh with one another. And that is the missing link right now. Over the summer, Will did Coney Island. And when we got out there, It was so therapeutic. We were hugging each other like our dear lives depended on it. I mean, the embrace had a language all its own. You didn't need to whisper to the person. You didn't need to open your mouth. If you were masked, you could keep your mask on because you were getting that thing that has been missing. So I am inspired by that missing space. I'm inspired to keep pouring into that pocket. And at some point, we will get to work together again and complete some more music. What drives me with working with Will is Will has helped me find a different side of my voice. He has helped me find Carolyn Victorian in the music. I can sing a little over here, I can do a little over there. You want it this way, you want it that way, but here's what my voice does. Wow. And once I found that, I'm at peace. I'm at peace. I'm not looking for that number one hit. I'm looking to go soul to soul through my depiction of sound.
What does success look like for Carolyn Victorian?
Success for me is literally at the end of the day, having enjoyed what I do because I enjoy doing it. Not because I have to do it, but because it's something that I choose to do and I do it well. That to me is success. Being able to not just look out for yourself, but pour into others. That is success to me. Yeah, I think that is it.
Where and how do you get musically inspired these days?
My children, my grandchildren, life, weather. Autumn is a good writing time for me. Autumn is my favorite season. I sit out a lot in autumn and write. I get inspired by painful moments are always inspiring. It's always an opportunity to tap into something that is not of the norm. To whom much is given, much is required. When something hits home and it hits hard, it's so easy to find words to describe it. And that's something that you have to really work on when building a song. You have a very minimal amount of time to say to someone, that hurt me. This is how I heal. Just like that. That's how fast. So life itself inspires me. Just being a freelance contributor inspires me.
Knowing what you know now, what would you do differently? How would you approach your approach to music differently?
Knowing what I know now, I would have given myself the opportunity to go to school for music, to literally invest in the craft, to literally invest in my voice. Yeah. If I had it to do, knowing then what I know now, I would have made that investment. And I hear it in my granddaughter's voice. I hear my high school chorus teacher when I listen to her sing opera, because that was once me. But I took it for granted. So I made it a hobby where I could have made it a career.
What advice would you give to the next generation?
To thine own heart be true. To thine own heart be true. Stand still. Take the time to really take a look at what it is that you want. Find your path and don't deviate. Don't deviate. Secure it. There's plenty of time to do all of that stuff later. Find your path. Earn your spot. Hold it down.
Talk to us about singing now versus singing then. Have there been any changes in the scene or industry that you didn't anticipate? I'll give you a couple of examples outside of house music. One is COVID. So how did COVID change what you do and how you do it? Another example is when I think about just generally the music, when I think about R&B from, for me, like my era is a golden era. R&B is like the 90s, like the Brandies, that kind of stuff, kind of poppy.
Mm-hmm.
But when I listen to, R&B then, or even the Keith Sweats, and then you listen to it now, it's very different.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
It's very different. Before it was a little bit more subtle. Now it's a lot more graphic.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what changes have you seen, if any, in house music from when you started to sort of where we are today?
So COVID, of course, has changed the opportunities that I have to get together with Will as much as we used to, to do projects. We were like so much more on point. And now it's hit or miss when we can. I had COVID, and when it first came out, and it did a real job on me. I was on oxygen for a while, and I really thought that I would never sing again. I really thought that because it really attacked those broncho, tubes. So to be able to move through that and to still have a voice is a great gift. It really is, because I know some people still struggle in that area. What's different? Oh, lots of things are different. Everybody has a record label now. Everybody has a label. Anybody can have a label now. I'm going to give this contrast. Anybody can be a DJ now. Anybody could be a label owner now. Where back then, there was a whole different type of investment. Totally different. I think the same way I would view learning to DJ on turntables and a mixer versus a laptop and whatever those new things that you use are, versus an old school record label with vinyl, versus, my label is my logo and I push out CDs. It's very different. It's very, very different. It is very different. So you could record for anybody now. You can record in 5 different directions at one time. You can. I mean, I don't work like that, where you send files to one another. That's not a gift of mine. My preference is in studio, in session. But there are so many different ways of doing music now. And I think, this is just my personal thought, something gets lost. Something magical that has the opportunity to happen loses the opportunity to happen, because all you have is what you brought, all I have is what I brought. We don't get to commingle. We don't
Mhm.
get to coexist.
Mhm.
And so I would say that that is definitely a huge difference.
Mhm. Let's talk about the future. What's next for Carolyn Victorian?
Mm, musically, what's next? Will and I are working on a really, really big project. So completing that project and starting another one. Completing that project and starting another one is really um, where I want to go because I feel like my voice has grown a lot and I want to continue to see where it's going to go. Um, Writing for others and just enjoying the music. Just enjoying the music. You know, when my mom was 50, she definitely wasn't doing what I was doing at 50.
Mhm.
You know, at 50, she went to work, she came home, she cooked dinner, and that was kind of life. In my 50s, I come home, we shower and change, we go dance, they weren't doing that. So life is a lot different now for us at this age. And I'm closer to 60 than 50. So, yeah.
Is there anything that I didn't ask that will help people better understand Carolyn Victorian?
What do I do besides music?
What do you do besides music?
I'm
Some people
an
like to keep that
actress.
secret, so I don't go there
It's
until
okay.
people want to share it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So yeah.
I am an actress and I am a radio host for a house music show every Saturday night here in Baltimore. And I really enjoy that. I went to Morgan State University to study the craft, and now I get to explore it. So, but it's still, it's all surrounding music. It's all surrounding music. So I feel like I have the best of both worlds.
One more thing about singing.
Hmm.
As you're a professional singer, what common mistakes do you see singers make that just drives you crazy? Like, why are they doing that?
Trying to sound like someone else. That's the biggest
Mm,
mistake. I feel every vocalist that has not found her or his sound is attempting to sound like someone else. Find your pocket and nurture it. That was one of the most difficult things for me is to find my pocket and nurture it. Everybody is not going to sing hard and, from the pits of, this place and this big voice is going to come out. Some of us have a softer voice. Cultivate that. I don't sound wonderful when I'm trying to sing like Jocelyn Brown. I sound wonderful when I'm singing like Carolyn Victorian. I would say that. I would say breathing. Breathing. Mhm.
what do you mean by breathing?
It's important that we breathe when we sing.
Mm,
Um, Daniel Comagee's um, a baritone opera singer, said to me, our only job is to drop our jaws and allow sound to escape. And it is through the breathing that that happens. So when we are not properly breathing, we are not given all that we've got. And you can hear it.
what role, if any, has identity played in your style, sound, and writing of music? Identity being a Black female.
Hmm.
Has that influenced your work in any way, consciously or unconsciously?
Consciously. Hmm. Well, there are certain types of songs I don't think anybody would ever ask me to do, just because of the lady that I am. Now, I cut a song with Jihad Muhammad many years ago, Milton You. It was a poem. It is a pretty graphic body of work. It's not your standard Carolyn Victorian song. Would I do a song like that today? Probably not, because it does not complement the lady that I've become. It was a space and time, and it was exploring, but it is definitely not the direction that I live in. So yeah, I think a lot of who I am influences what I do, definitely.
Another controversial question. Is house music dead, or does it just smell funny?
Wow, this is so funny that you should say that. When I was in college, which was not that long ago, I graduated from Morgan in 2017. And my senior capstone, the question was, is house music dying? That was the question that I sought an answer for. And I traveled to Atlanta, Chicago, Philly, Jersey, New York, Baltimore, Mexico, seeking to answer this question. Many people in the house scene I interviewed for my documentary. And this documentary is, to this day, the example of the senior capstone in the School of Global Journalism at Morgan. Seeking to answer the question, is house music dying? No, house music isn't dying. It isn't dying. It is not. House music is not dead. It is very much alive and well. I think it has sprouted into so many different things, so many different types of house music, but it's very much alive. And young people are very open to receive it. And every opportunity I get, I expose young people to house music. House music is the music that soothes the soul.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you so much. This was a great
Thank
interview.
you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a wonderful
Take care, brother. You
All right, take
too.
care. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.